Welcome back, guys. This is the second part of the advanced solid states with pillars. We're going to go and continue on from here on out. What we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and remove, I'm going to go ahead and remove the user's state from this particular directory, this environment, because it's useless at the time being. We're not going to have just dev users. We're going to have all sorts of users. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this folder. We'll delete that user state. And then we'll just go ahead and create and use this one, which is user mole at the moment, but we're going to change this into a programmatic Jinja function, or a loop rather, which is going to go ahead and iterate through our pillars and fill it all in and add the key as necessary. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is base. Right, so let's go to pillars, base, and then we'll create the users folder. Now it works exactly like the states. You create the folder and then you have init.sls. If you don't have init.sls, you have to specify what the actual file is in top.sls. So we'll create a new file and then this will be init.sls. But here we'll have users. Let's say admin users to be safe, right? So SaltStack, admin users. I like to keep everything lowercase, so admin users. And we'll say one of them is mo.ali and his full name is moali. And shell is /bin/bash. UID is 10,000, and we'll actually need to remove moali from all of the boxes using the CLI. That way we can go ahead and push this through, because otherwise it's just going to go ahead and recreate the same user, and we can test it. It'll just say that the user moali already exists, but I actually want to see some results, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. GID from name, yeah, true. And then actually, was that GID from name? I don't recall. Is that here? It is not, and I've already gone ahead and delete that user. Well, let's see if it's here. Ah, yes, it is GID from name. Okay, so GID from name, and then the groups they belong in. The groups this one should belong in is we, right? So let's go ahead and add another user. We'll add Cat Douglas again. So cat.douglas, full name, Catherine Douglas. Shell /bin/bash, UID 10,001, GID from name true, and groups wheel. Now, you don't have to put in all of these information. You can actually go ahead and just do the user and then the shell and the UID and maybe the GID from name, and then the rest you can just go ahead and leave it in the salt state as static data. But I like to do it this way. It's just easier to maintain. So you see it all here, and then like all of the users will be here, and then you apply it from the salt state from there on. So we'll have another user. We'll say David Gonzalez. That's my best friend's name. Oh wait, he's Z because he'll make a fuss about that. Anyways, his full name is David Gonzalez. And you'll have shell /bin/bash. He'll be UID 10,002. And groups. He will not be in any other group except for the one for himself, so we'll just have GID from name true. and the groups will just be empty. So we'll say groups is just an empty list. And we can have a few more. Let's see. Let's say Tony Montana. I just, for some reason, thought of the movie Waterboy, and Tony Montana's mentioned in that movie, so there we go. Full name, Tony Montana, and he'll have a shell of /bin/bash, UID 10,003, and GID from name, true, and groups, he'll also be empty and not belong anywhere. And I believe that's it. We'll just have the 4 users, including myself. Oh, we'll also want to add the SSH key. So let's go ahead and add that here as well. So SSH key is, we're just going to use the one SSH key for everybody, so it's easier that way. And we will say it's base users keys lollipop. Now this way, we don't actually have to have the key in the file like so. Let me see if I can just do this. Oh, it's actually easier to do this. Super long line, unfortunately, but it works. I should have word wrap enabled. Anyway, so this is the SSH key for everybody now. So in your job, wherever you are, you're obviously going to have different SSH keys. And also, this is a very unsecured method. Even though technically pillars are supposed to be the secured way, having your public SSH key, technically they still can't use it to get into whatever server that you're trying to get into, since this isn't a password. And the servers that I create don't have passwords, they only use the keys. However, you still want to encrypt the SSH key. Later on in the course, I'll go ahead and show you how to encrypt the pillar using GPG. So it'll go ahead and encrypt it. It'll be encrypted here, and then the minion will pull it and decrypt it using a GPG key from the pillar information, and then use it in the salt state or pillar items, however you want to, if you view it. So we'll use the same key because I don't feel like making 4 keys. Anyway, so that's the SSH key. Now here is where things get a little different. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is that I'm going to call Jinja right now. So for user in salt. Let me make sure of that as well, actually. Pillar items, refresher. So yeah, we can say pillar get, or we can say pillar. Okay, I see. So I like with this method here. What's the difference? This one's new. It says this approach allows users to be safe. To be safely defined in pillar, and then the user data applied to the SLS file. Okay, so this is actually very close to what I'm doing, so I'm going to go ahead and use this method. So let's do for that. So pillar.get. All right, these are all admin users, by the way. I should probably declare that, but let's be safe and have this discrepancy where they're not added to the wheel, just for the heck of it, so we can. This is, anyways, admin users. So for user, let me make sure I have that correct. Yep. So for user data, because the user is this guy, so it's gonna go ahead and look into this pillar because of what we declare to look in pillar.get. So that's automatically bringing all of this up. However, we also want to iterate through this key individually. So like the first key after admin users. So it's going to go ahead and iterate through MoLE, which is gonna automatically iterate through this. So we're already calling admin users, so that's calling the whole file, and then we're gonna call user, which is the first key of the admin users, which is each user here. So MoLE, Cat Douglas, David Gonzalez, and Tony.Montana. These are the users, and then for the data is actually the list of items, the dictionary keys here. So the full name, shell, UID, GID from name, and so on and so on. It's going to go ahead and pull that data underneath the variable data. So user is going to be under just the username, and data is everything else beyond the username. And it's already calling everything in admin users. So also in pillar, you should be careful. Just like in SaltStack, you can't have multiple pillar IDs as well. So you can't have admin users in a different pillar file. So be careful with that. Okay, so anyways, so for user data in pillar.get, I believe I needed .items. I think there was an example here anyways. So pillar get, I did this wrong anyway. So pillar get, because this is a function now, pillar.get is a function, not a call. Admin users. So pillar.get admin users, and then anything after, so all the keys afterwards, and .items. I believe that's right. For user data in, yep, so for user data in, my coloring is off. I don't understand why this is yellow and so on. So for user data in pillar.get admin users, yeah. So if I copy this, do I see the same? Okay, I do, great. Awesome, so the coloring is just messing with me. Okay, so there's that. If I switch this to Jinja, what do I see? Oh, I don't have Jinja here, unfortunately. It's instant all Jinja. Jinja 2. All right. Okay, yeah, that looks better. So, I mean, it removes my salt state declarants, unfortunately. So what we'll do there is we'll go ahead and create the user now. So we're gonna call first thing, just like in that example, we'll go ahead and call user. So that's there, and then it's user.present. And from there on, we're gonna go ahead and call the data. Oops, I need to put this in. Whenever you're calling a Jinja item being a variable or dictionary key or so on, you need to call it with the double braces. If you don't use the double braces, then it's not going to go ahead and call that item. Now that is when only calling. When you're using a for loop, you have to have a brace and a percent sign in the beginning and the end. And of course, just like this, you can't have brace and percent. It's brace percent and then percent brace to end it. So we want the well, we already have the name up there, so we don't need the name. We want the full name, so data full name. I believe that's what we called it here as well. Yep, data would be here, so full name. We want full name, shell, UID, GID from name, groups, and then the SSH key afterwards, but we'll do that. Okay, so full name, we will say that's here. So equals that, and then we switch back to SaltStack. Oh, that looks much better. There we go. Mix the two together. Sweet. So full name needs to be in. There we go. and shell, and we can actually, it doesn't matter. Shell data shell home data home UID data UID, and I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this GID from name. It's the exact same thing as I called it here. Data and of course groups. Okay. That takes care of the user. Now we need to go ahead and add, the only thing we're missing is the SSH key. So now we have, need to create the SSH key. So we can say, oh, actually, you know what? Let's keep it consistent before we change that. So we will say user here. So user there, and we'll add in the name. This is what I meant, that it can be ignored, but we don't really matter. I know this coloration, this is this discoloration, but it will work. This will still pull in the ginger variable, so don't worry about that too much. And name can be user, like so. All right, so let's go ahead and go through the key. So I said it was user key, and this is SSH auth.present, which is the same module and the same key and class that we're calling before, and we're just gonna go ahead and feed the data into that particular method. So the name is of course the user, the user is still the user. Now the name doesn't really matter. The name could be anything. I can say user SSH key, but I'm just gonna leave the user. And then the source is the SSH key. However, we don't really need to use this flag because we have the SSH key here. So we need to find out a way to use this method, this SSH auth present. Instead of using source, we need to feed in the key directly. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Salt SSH auth, I should search .present. Oh, well, it looks like it's already here. So we can feed it in this way. The name is the key. And this is present root include. Okay, I see. The name is the key. So we'll just replace the name with the actual SSH key. It says the SSH key being, okay, got it. So this is the key. So let's do that. We will say that it is data SSH key, right? Is that what we called it? I believe so. So yep, SSH underscore key. Okay. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And now, like I said, I've never actually rehearsed this. I haven't rehearsed this before making this video, so this is a one-off. We might run into some issues, we might not run into some issues. But let's go ahead and delete the user Mo Ali as well as Cat Douglas from all the boxes. And then we'll go ahead and recreate them this way. So let me save this, commit this. Oh, sorry, add and then commit. and we will say recreate salt state programmatically. All right, salt state to handle users programmatically. Okay. So let's go through salt, sudo salt. I think it's user.del. Let's test it out. User.del mo.ali. No, it's not user.del, unfortunately. Salt user.absent. Maybe. It is user.absent. Well, at least it's for the state version. It could be something entirely different for the CLI. And it is entirely different for the CLI, which is unfortunate. So let me go ahead and go back to the salt modules. Salt command modules, or sorry, execution modules. There we go. Here's the list, and I believe user is down here somewhere. Tomcat user add, and we're gonna go ahead and do user dot delete. I should have figured that. Okay, that got rid of mo.ali, and then we'll get rid of cat.douglas, and everybody's gone. So now we'll say false because cat.douglas doesn't exist. Awesome. Spectacular. So now we can go ahead and push this. Actually, wait, hold on. We need to create that top.sls. I had almost forgotten. So even though we have this data here, the minions won't be able to pull this data unless they have access to this data. So that's what the top.sls is for. So if you go to, let's go ahead and close all the salt state files. So if you go to pillars and then where you created the user init.sls, you need to go to that top.sls of that file and say base, just like how you do for the top.sls in salt states. And we'll say for every host is add the pillar users. Now, just like in top.sls and salt states, you don't have to you don't have to call init.sls. You don't have to say users.init because Salt automatically knows that the file name is init, or automatically try init. So if you named it anything other than init, you need to specify users dot whatever you specified. So now that that's set, let's go ahead and add all files. I should have said add all. There we go. Commit. Add pillar data to base environment for all minions, and push. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video here because that's been a while. I think it's been more than 20 minutes and I want to keep these videos short. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video here. On the next video, we'll go ahead and run this and see what the result is.